often people ring me or chat with me, and sometimes I'm in tears, because they're struggling so much.
It's such a relief, and just so nice to have, your own home and look out your own window into the garden. And
we didn't know what would happen.
And the reference point being the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. That was a real boom.
The laws changing put it on my radar.
And we just looked at each other and we just said, we're shafted. We've been shafted.
I was saying just a very simple thing, but you could hear the support that was literally at my back, And I thought, well, this has got legs.
This is Candid Tiny House. I'm your host, Shannon Schultz from Fred's Tiny Houses. This season we're examining how Mount Alexander Shire in Victoria changed their local laws to allow tiny houses on wheels to be lived in on private property where there's a dwelling without a time frame or a permit. This local council is providing leadership in Victoria and across Australia by increasing affordable housing options and responding creatively to the needs of its community. So far, we've heard about the first attempt to change the laws back in 2020, which improved the laws but wasn't exactly a slam dunk for tiny house living. The campaign was reignited in 2022 by the My Home Network, a collection of concerned community members and organisations which decided to try changing the laws again. It was a new set of councillors, there were some new staff within council, and the world had changed a fair bit. We've heard about what it was like from the council perspective to go through the process of changing the laws, on working together, on taking a risk and trusting each other. This episode will be focusing on what you can do in your hometown to get the ball rolling. Let's start with Rosie Annear when I asked her, what can somebody do when they're approaching their council for the first time about changing the local laws?
I think the first thing that anybody, a resident of anywhere needs to do is figure out what the status quo is. So figure out what the law says right now.
In their local shire.
And then, so get a really good understanding of that. Probably get a good understanding of what you might like. So what changes you would like to see. And then, the best way is just to email your local councillor or give them a call. If you know that one of them is more focused on this kind of stuff, you might call that person instead. Or if there's one that you think you'd have a better connection with, because obviously councillors can be very diverse. You want to call the one or email the one that you think you're going to connect with best, or just email them all is also another great way, because then we all know about it. And I think honestly, this came from both a number of emails from tiny home advocates, but also from the work of My Home Network, who really got us involved from the beginning. And the other part of it is just being respectful of your council and councillors, like realising that they're just people. They're not the enemy. The fact that everyone in this debate was able to, not even that it was a debate, because we're all pretty much on the same side from the start, but the fact that it was a really positive interaction. We cop an awful lot of abuse and some pretty poor behaviour sometimes, which I understand it's frustrating, I get that, but I don't think it's ever acceptable to take those feelings out on another person. So the fact that the dialogue and the engagement and the connection was so genuine, and I don't know, it just made it a lot easier to have the difficult conversations, I think, and to really fight for what we wanted, because it was easier than it could have been.
When you're all pulling in the same direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, that's rare for council. Council usually has, a 3 or 4 or 5 way tug of war with things. Whereas when you're all kind of going the same way, it's so much easier. But acknowledging that other councils might have a different makeup, both of community and officers and councillors, I think it's about having a really clear goal. And then, pointing to councils who've done it and going, look, they did it, and this is what they did, and, this is how they're mitigating risk, and this is the benefit to the community. No council at the moment should, I think, turn up any way to make housing easier in their area. And I think most councils, you know, they get it. They get it.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good time to make change because of how awful it is for so many people.
Yeah.
And most councils will, I hope, you know, do what it takes to make things a bit easier.
Councillor Matthew Driscoll, who is currently serving as Mayor of the Shire, is similarly encouraging of people to come forward with their ideas on how council could solve some of the problems that we're all facing.
To be honest, I had a few people come to me and with these concepts, which I think is fantastic, right? So I've put them to council, and we didn't think about these things, right? So the public have come to me as a councillor and say, Matt, have you thought about this? We didn't think about this. Put it there, and now which I can't mention right now, but there's a couple in that I actually think might work.
Right.
And that was it's come from just the general public person walking on his farm, thinking about this, and it's some great concepts. So, you know, so I also think, you know, whoever listens to this, to say if you've got an idea or a concept, and it doesn't matter if it's weird and wacky, right?
Yeah. Present it.
Present it.
Yeah.
Go to one of the councillors, go to me, whatever, and say, look, you know, send me an email or whatever. You know, you just never know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really hopeful, because I think a lot of us listen to the news and talk to our friends and we're concerned about the problems, but if you come up with a solution, it'd be terrific to see it go somewhere.
No, absolutely right. And, you know, why can't we do it here? I mean, you know, why can't we do it within we're now Shire? You know, we have smart people, and we have a willingness, I think, within our community to solve some of the big issues if we can.
Yeah. And what does he think about the tiny house local law changes that were passed?
So, I mean, what I wanted with tiny houses, I wanted everyone to be able to put a tiny house in vacant land, wherever. I still don't think right now, as we've done, it goes far enough. But that's my personal view.
Okay.
But within the legislation, and I have grilled many times our people that say, can we push this harder and harder? And this is the furthest we can push
within the state
legislation, without council being non-compliant, which they won't.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, for instance, just the local law, like the dealing with the black water, you know, is an issue. You've got to remove it from the site, right?
Yes, yeah.
Now, I think there's better ways to do this, and I think this is a start, and this is great. But hopefully, we can make it better than that. And I think you should be able to have my personal view. You should be able to have a tiny house on vacant land.
The grey water issue that Councillor Driscoll is referring to here is a clause in the local law that states that grey water cannot be processed on site where a tiny house is parked. It does throw a spanner in the works, and we will be talking about it in depth in the next episode. Despite his disappointment with the limitations of the current local law, he has some advice for anybody listening who happens to be on council now, serving as an elected representative of their local constituents.
So I would say to council laws, if they're worried about this and want to do something, then put a notion in motion, get it out there, and start moving forward, because then it gets, as I said, you've got this time frame there.
Yeah, so all the staff are really focused on figuring out what they can do.
Yeah.
And they could look to Mount Alexander Shire, presumably, as a case study.
And lots of them have. This has started a lot of other councils. So, hey, this looks good. What can we do? And they're going through that process themselves, which is fantastic.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
And do you suspect that they would face any obstacles that you might have faced, and how to overcome them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, that motion is only going to be carried if the council laws are supportive of that. So, you know, there are councils who don't get on as well as we do in terms of trying to solve issues and communicate and get the information out there.
Yeah.
And so if that could just get stopped. Sorry, we're not going to do this. Not voted for. Which can happen.
Yeah.
And we're lucky it didn't happen with us.
Indeed. This is the reality that we all live with. That if your elected members don't have a majority of representatives prioritising housing solutions, or if they don't see tiny houses as a way of solving their housing problems, then it can fall over at the notice of motion or later once the proposal has been drafted and voted upon. The best way to avoid this stalemate is to vote for councillors who prioritise housing from the outset. And if there's a few people on council who might resist the proposed changes, then their minds might be changed through the course of the campaign that you and your community run. Or they may be won over by their colleagues, if there are councillors like Rosie and Matthew in this case, who were eager to see tiny house law reform happen. Christine Henderson and Bronwyn Machin led the charge during the first attempt in 2020, but were thwarted by the head of planning, as we heard back in the first episode. If you missed that episode, do go back and listen to it because it's instructive on what can go wrong. I asked Kaz about the aspects of the tiny house campaign run by the My Home network that made it so successful, starting by drilling down on what the nature of the meetings were with council representatives and staff members.
You were presenting data and you were presenting alternative laws and like aspirational hopes for the law change, and you were presenting lived experience like yours, Catherine. So you were really, it was very much an information provision service that you were providing to them, and that was the advocacy that you were doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of it. And trying to say to them too, we're here to support you. Whatever you feel you need, can we have a working relationship? You know, that it's not too separate. Like, we really want to work together with you on this.
Yeah, lovely. So you're really starting off with connection, like a point of connection, like you all want the same thing and you want to work together, and it's not an adversarial kind of position that you're taking to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that became clear because in one of the community consultations, you know, I think there was a bit of nervousness around members of the public and their position, and, you know, there's a bit of nervousness around what council felt they could commit to. And I was trying to reassure Georgie, this will be done respectfully. Like, you know, we'll come along and, you know, you're trying to, I suppose, build that, how councils see community and vice versa, how we build that community engagement, and that then they don't just see it as potential. I'm sure it can be adversarial at times, but that we try and keep both parties respectful.
I think that probably in previous community consultation experiences that those particular staff members have had, they've probably had experiences where it's been adversarial and they've opened themselves up to abuse or criticism from members of the public. And so it takes a lot of, like, it sounds like you're working to support them to be like, I'll provide a buffer, it'll be safe, we'll do it well, so that we're not all feeling like we're against one another on minor points when what we're really together on is the major points.
Point, absolutely. Or even, Shannon, suggesting how do we facilitate these community consultations, like, because, you know, they're in the community consultations, you know, I felt at times it was almost like we took on a facilitation role because they were there with their particular expertise, but there wasn't somebody necessarily independent who was facilitating the conversation.
Yeah.
So, you know, just enabling a fair conversation process. And what does that look like?
It is. It's thinking about the process, isn't it? Like, not just go, okay, you're all in the one room, go. It's like, how do you have a respectful process so that it is well managed and everyone feels heard, and you've got names that you can speak to.
Yeah, absolutely. So
It's good to have somebody who is a cross process in the room and who knows how to hold it. Because otherwise it can be a bit of a shit show.
Or
lost.
bogged down in a minor issue that hinders the direction that we're all wanting to get to, you know.
As you can hear, keeping the interaction respectful has been a big element of success here. And you might be able to offer your council some facilitation support in these pop-up community consultation meetings. If someone has group facilitation skills and can volunteer their time to make sure everybody is heard and that everyone stays on task and doesn't get bogged down in the details, like Catherine was saying, it can build trust and goodwill between council and the members of the public. Now we're going to hear from Kaz, who reflects on the key elements that got this campaign over the line from her perspective.
they can't do anything unless the community's absolutely advocating for it. They're, as elected reps, they advocate and represent us. So I think a key aspect was the number of submissions that broke all council records and the overwhelming positive response. But also I think, I think building the relationships with the council staff and councillors, I think that enabled them to feel, oh, we're all on the same page a bit. This is about collaboration and building on what they wanted to do, and they weren't, maybe, I don't know, in isolation. But also, the fact that Matthew and Rosie, I think, were the primary councillors that kind of got it, were enthusiastic to learn, and were happy to kind of push it within their peers as well.
Yeah.
So you had two councillors leading the discussion, and I think they were pretty well informed. And trusted, obviously, by their peers. So
Yeah. So I guess to summarize what you're saying, that you did have good relationships, that you had really amenable councillors who were willing to do it. You had an overall approach that was positive and together. We're in this together. And then you had the backup of the community that all came out and with full voice said, yes, please. So and they probably couldn't have done it if they hadn't had that just everybody essentially putting in their vote. So that was the sort of like the last key factor for success, I suppose.
And look, certainly, the likes of Catherine and the working group, I'm not in social media for all sorts of reasons, but I think the working group, the delegation, they got the word out, the My Home Network, they got the word out. And we tried to inform the network as much as possible around the proposed changes and what we wanted, but it was a bit clunky because they, sometimes I feel that information isn't really palatable and easy to access. So, I was having to sort of try and cut paste off council meeting agendas and minutes and stuff. It's just it's tricky sometimes.
It can
just trying to really inform the community.
Sorry, I was just thinking it can be hard to read. It's not like an easy to read document. It's really presented for somebody who's not thinking about council meeting minutes to pick up and enter that text.
It was really that again, that sort of process aspect, I suppose. Catherine, do you remember when we met as a working group? We were actually trying to almost decipher what they were saying in the proposed changes. There was, sort of 22 pages of a document within minutes of a council meeting. So there was like 100 pages, and we were trying to. So
that sort of translation role could translate to, like, if you were to do this again, you could potentially allocate someone to be in that role of making something easy to read, like easy English, how to present information, because that is a huge task. It takes quite a skilled comms person to take massive amounts of legal jargonese, and to put it into something that's palatable for the layperson who's just an interested member of the community.
So there's another thing to add to your campaign wish list. Someone who's skilled at taking legal documents and turning them into plain language. Big time saver there. I asked Councillor Rosie Annear what she thought were the key turning points and factors of success for this campaign.
The fact that we were given such a solid report, which could so firmly recommend this in a way that mitigated risk enough that we could be responsible.
And that was that initial report from your council staff?
This was the second one that came back after the community consultation.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, honestly, not much had changed, except that we were able to add in community voice, which is so important in terms of things that people were concerned about, in terms of opportunities, in terms of what people wanted us to do more of. And even that, we were able to go, look, we just can't, it can't be commercial. It can't be more than one because of the planning scheme. But if you engage with the planning scheme, it is absolutely possible.
Right.
And I mean, I think that's something else that we've learnt a lot from through this process, is that every person is not into the planning scheme. They don't want to go near it because it's seen as inaccessible. I would agree to some extent. I find it inaccessible. But I think what's really important for people to understand is there are ways to achieve bigger and better projects if you do engage with the planning scheme in terms of tiny homes. I mean, that avoiding it is sometimes good, particularly if you've got a lot of complex stuff going on and you just need somewhere to live. Of course, you're not going to want to go through the full planning scheme process, but it's something that you have the time and the energy for to set yourself up with, a more permanent situation. I think it's really recommended. Yeah, that just the amount of positive feedback we have gotten on this, as we don't get a lot of positive feedback. I'm sure there is some out there, but people are more likely to contact council with kind of concerns. But yeah, the positive feedback on this has been great, and it feels good. That's the other thing.
You've shown real leadership as a council to be able to do it, and I'm really appreciative on behalf of everybody who has the potential to benefit from it. So
it was great, and I think particularly because at the start maybe I wouldn't have even known how other councillors would have felt about this, but the fact that we were all at least willing to explore it right from the get-go, there was no one who said no. It was like, all right, let's see what is possible, let's see what's responsible, let's see what can be done, and then we'll make a decision. The fact that everyone committed to that, I don't know, that's just that's democracy. I think that's how it should be, and I was really heartened by all of this. It's been one of the best processes we've been through, and I think that feeling is shared by most people.
Yeah. Okay, have you got your campaign strategy notebook out? Let's review the ideas from this episode. Find out what the local laws are in your area relating to camping on private property. Email one or all of your elected councillors a proposal to change the law, and cite Mount Alexander Shire laws if you want to, or the Yarra Valley or the Surf Coast Shire as examples of what can be done. Get someone involved in your campaign who can read dry documents and paraphrase accurately in plain language. It'll make the whole thing easier. Keep the vibe supportive. People, especially public servants, have copped a bollocking over the last few years, so if you're asking them to take on a whole bunch of extra work and risk, keep it respectful and help them to want to work with you. If you're on council and you're thinking about what you can do, you can put forward a notice of motion and put a time frame on council drafting a solution to your shire's housing problems. That'll get the ball rolling. Then get the word out. Media releases, social media shares, conversations at the sausage sizzle at your local primary school. Council can only do something that the community supports. So this is your moment to generate that buzz. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to all about how you can change the laws in your hometown. Next week, where are we at with the tiny house laws now that they've been in place for almost a year? Who's taking them up? What obstacles do we still face? And where do we take this in the future? Both on a local and state level. Thanks to our special guests, Councillor Rosie Annear, Matthew Driscoll, Kaz Neilson, and Catherine McGoldrick, who've all put in so much effort and leadership in changing the laws here in our local shire. And thanks so much to everybody who put in their submissions for the local law change both times, so that the council could confidently vote yes on the change. This podcast was recorded on the unceded lands of the Jara people in Dja Dja Wurrung country. Music for this episode is by Scott Buckley. Candid Tiny House was written, recorded, edited and produced by me, Shannon Schultz from Fred's Tiny Houses. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends about it, rate and review it, generally share the love, and stick around for next episode of Candid Tiny House. Stay candid!